Hello, welcome everyone. It's Arkheim. I'm here with Brian Tseng. How are you doing today, Brian?
Pretty well, thank you. Yeah, trying to stay warm.
Yeah, well, it's a lot warmer over here where we're at now, but yeah, it's getting cold. A lot of people are cooling down. But hopefully we can put out some warm vibes in the show and people can warm up with that. Today we wanted to make a little video just kind of it's kind of like a little bit of a reboot of the show, almost having Brian aboard with me, and I thought it'd be a good time for not only Brian to introduce himself, but myself as well, and just kind of just highlight what it is we're really trying to do with this channel, what we both really are trying to accomplish, just in general, YouTube channel or not, just in the world out there, and so for me, obviously, I've had this channel for a while, and I created this channel because I had experiences myself relating to the secret space programs and MK Ultra and all of that. Which, if you're on the channel watching this, I'm sure you understand that. And I met Brian because Brian basically just well, he was formulating the Montauk trip with James Rink helping out with that, and I ended up meeting him there. But in general, Brian is trying to. I don't mean to speak for you, but it strikes me as someone who's trying to organize this movement we have here, as far as like what we're trying to do with disclosure, and so I just thought that'd be a good opportunity to just make a video, kind of announce that we've got some things coming down the pipeline. I slowed down a lot, but we're gonna be putting out stuff more regularly, and I just wanted to give you a chance to introduce. Whoa, was that the cat? What's going on over there? Yes. Okay, sorry guys, the cat is being mischievous. It's fine though. But yeah, I just want to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself, Brian, and explain like what it is you're trying to do here, like why you're co-hosting the show with me, like and how we really met and all that stuff. Like if you can go into that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Arkeem, and it's a pleasure and an honor to be co-hosting your show with you here. A big part of it is that I think there were certain events after 9/11 in 2001 that some people woke up to and some people didn't. And I think in everybody's families, every family got one black sheep, I think they'll call us. And I happen to be that one. And, I think there's certain litmus tests that if, you kind of either you buy into it, the system and what we're presented as being everyday, normal, proper, correct history. And then there are those of us who perceive that no, there's a deeper, more true hidden reality. And but then after 9/11, a couple years after that, I think is when I woke up. And it's when, a lot of people, they talk about waking up. That was my process. It was probably around 2005-ish. And then more recently, there was a certain uh, I guess you could just call it the pandemic, if you will, that was another litmus test for people. And what I've realized, and I think other people have realized this too, is that how can humanity raise our vibration, as it were, and change what's going on around the planet if we ourselves are all under a huge lie, an illusion, don't even know the truth of what's happening in terms of ETs, but just ET contact, and our governments, and historically, often a lot of times, doing dirty dealings in bed with these ETs and selling us out, as it were, the general population. And so um, I became very attracted to this idea of full disclosure, not government disclosure from the top down, thinking naively that governments around the world are just going to open up all their books and their archives and their documents and tell all. Far from it. This is that would be a top down autocratic type of disclosure. Didn't know what what I'm talking about is really a bottom up, from the masses, from the people who survived these programs like yourself, Arkheim, and so many others now who are coming out with memories and testimonies, so that you can collectively, together with all of us who, whether or not we were in any of these programs, we can collectively call for justice and expose the realities of what's going on the ground, underground, and in the skies, if you will.
Yeah, and that's what we're all here for. And I think that we just all need to remember that when it comes to disclosure, there's a lot of disagreements out there, and not everybody is always 100% on the same page as far as the details and everything else. But I think that the main thing that we need to all remember what we're here for is we want to expose these programs and what's going on in secret, but we want to make that public. And this concerns everyone on Earth, and if we can make this happen, we can usher in a new age for humanity. Oh, it's Freya.
That's right.
Hey,
Yeah,
Freya.
he hears that.
Yeah, we can usher in a new age for humanity of a more prosperous future. I know it's more complicated than just disclosing these technologies and it automatically fixes the problems. But a lot of the reason why a lot of stuff is kept secret is because if people knew that they would want to do something about it and they would not be happy with what was happening. So I think it's important to remember that there is a power in unveiling the truth and getting the public on board with seeing what's going on here, because they will care. If they thought that, if the powers that be thought that the public wouldn't care, if they knew about this stuff, then they wouldn't be so they wouldn't work so hard to keep it secret. So to me, that shows that we should have a fire in our belly to get people to understand the stuff, like average Joe type people, normal people, and get them on board with disclosing these technologies and what's happening, so that there can't, there's criminal activities going on with this stuff is really what people need to understand. Criminal activities, criminal organizations that are like time corporations and stuff like that, and they can be held accountable. It's a complicated process, but the first step is us knowing. And then, of course, it's like you said, also with our history. Like, it's not just about the future and where we're going and these technologies and what that all entails. It's also about the fact that we've already had a lot of these technologies in Earth's past, and our history is a complete lie. And we really, we I guess it's a good time to bring up the fact that we really want to get this on a level. And I know a lot of people say this is dangerous, but we want to get this on a level where we can have people testifying in court, where we can have people, we can have actually bring the evidence to the table and prosecute people that need to get prosecuted. Show, make these programs transparent, and either entirely get rid of them, or if need be, vet them and reform them to make them not be, so they're not doing nefarious things and they're doing things by the book, as it were. And yeah, we just need to actually bring this to that level. And I'm just kind of curious, I know we've talked about this before, but for the listeners and stuff like that, like, what do you think is the first steps to towards getting the ball rolling for that and everything else, like as far as beginning disclosure and making it all come to light, and actually making things change?
I like that question a lot, Arkheim, because it's about taking practical steps for a movement. I think that start by getting together as many testimonies and eyewitnesses as we can. And then as we begin to see whose testimonies are corroborating and we've got the overlap, maybe begin to look at putting together class action lawsuits. I think that there are people out there in the wings who are waiting for, a groundswell of demand for justice. And I think that we need to link up with those resources, whatever they be they legal, be they financial, be they media types who can get us, or the movement rather, as much traction as possible. And then I think off these testimonies, I think a lot of names have already been named out there, um, of celebrities and politicians. So I think that, um, maybe campaigns not to harass them or anything like that, but to, I don't know, to call on them to tell what they know. And maybe if in cases where there are crimes against humanity and there's SRA and abuse and torture, yeah, there should be calls for justice, and there should be televised tribunals where the panels are empowered with the ability to cross international lines and to make decrees and to make sure that veterans such as yourself are paid back. Anything that's been stolen should be repatriated. Let's say, we're talking about not just crimes against humanity, we're talking about time crimes against humanity. You yourself, Arkheim, have testified to, negative time missions to hold back, for example, a guy who was like a combination of Leonardo da Vinci and Tesla. I
Not
think,
literally, but figuratively, yes, that's a good.
yeah, or
Yeah.
figuratively, right? Like these types of figures. And all that information needs to see the light of day so that people can make heads or tails of it.
Yeah, and for me, it's confusing with the memories and the different timelines and changing things multiple times. And for me, it's important that I see my files, and know what it is I did and didn't do. And as far as certain ideas or pieces of art, pieces of music, or whatever that they've taken from me, it's all really mind melting to have all this stuff happen to you. And so for me, I need that validation of my files and just uh, what all happened to me. And then of course I've talked about this in the past where it needs to get to the point where we integrate our alters, which they create these alters through trauma, and they program them to only remember what they need to remember and program them to do certain things, and that's part of the mind control. Just explaining it to those people who are just tuning in, I guess. I don't want to go too deep into it because most people understand, but I think that maybe I have to do a video from the ground up where I explain alters soon, because maybe people don't understand it 100%. But essentially, they can break your personality into different pieces that are different personalities that remember and have their own different thing going on, and they can put them into clones, or they can activate them and make them do certain things. And that's how a lot of these programs work. And even if they're using a clone of you, it's your consciousness in there. The body's just a vehicle, and they don't want to have to start from the ground up. So they just throw consciousness in these clones and make them do stuff. And yeah, it's a human trafficking thing is really what it comes down to. Is this is human trafficking, and it's also black magic, and it goes hand in hand with Satanism and stuff. And I know that that's really hard for people to understand. Certain people to wrap their mind around. It sounds maybe unscientific would be the word for it, but the reality is this stuff is really going on, and it's not unscientific. It's just that our current mainstream science is dumbed down to where it couldn't explain it, even if it had the tools to be able to, which it doesn't. It's kind of the point. So but
And I'm sorry to say, Arkeem, that unfortunately there's a lot of negative, nefarious science that is in these programs. They've spent a lot of time and money and resources and a lot of dead bodies of people for them to figure out how to do all sorts of suicide programming, separation programming, sex kitten programming, super soldier programming. And when you look at the files that have been released from these type of MK Ultra programs, whether from the CIA or their operations in Canada, going back to the 50s at McGill University and whatnot, it's crazy. I mean, that's 70 something years old now.
yeah,
And
there's a lot of people like to say there's no evidence. Well, the mainstream people, which there is a lot of evidence, and that's why we have this channel. Is we really there is quite a bit of evidence, especially for some of the really some of the stuff's more down to earth. Like there are MK Ultra files that really did happen. There are actual people who won lawsuits against the government for being used as guinea pigs in these MK Ultra experiments, and it just didn't end, is what people need to understand. And it's an ongoing thing, and it has to do with the military-industrial complex. It has to do with the satanic ritual abuse, the satanic groups, cults, things like that. And there's a lot of money being made off this because it's trafficking is really. I can't really reiterate it enough. I guess is the fact that that's really what's going on, and that's what people need to understand. They get distracted by the bells and whistles, the science fiction aspect, clones and time travel and this and that, and they forget that people's human rights, people's sovereignty is being violated, and that's an offense and an affront to us all. Because if this person over here's sovereignty is being violated, what makes you think that you over here aren't going to have your sovereignty violated? It's a universal law that affects everyone. If human beings, if their sovereignty isn't respected, then we're all in that same boat together. And a lot of this disclosure thing is really about making sure that our sovereignty is respected, because it's not on a human standpoint to each other, and also on a galactic standpoint. We're not having our sovereignty respected, and that there's an emphasis that needs to get placed on that. And that's why a lot of these free will positive ET beings, they do respect free will. In fact, they respect free will so much that if we decide to be ignorant, if then they view that as our free will to do so, and they will respect that. That is how there are positive beings. And so a lot of people, when they ask why aren't they stepping in, why aren't they doing anything, well, in their eyes, we have free will, and by our own free will, we built this system, this capitalist loose farming system thing that we're all living under, and we're all okay with it. So they have to leave it alone, unless we actually literally put our foot down and say we don't want this anymore and say no to it. They're gonna kind of, their mentality is, okay, well, this is what we want. And the not positive, not free will ETs that want to enslave us, they take advantage of that and they manipulate that. And that's why another thing, they view it as we are consenting to what they're doing, because they put it right in our faces and movies and stuff like that. That's a part of it. You know what I mean? It's like they view that as us consenting, going along with it. So
here's a perfect example of that, Arkheim. We talk about, well, why should people care? Well, here's you got the Sage radar tower, and they spent decades figuring out how to beam people with frequencies to alter our behavior, make us sleepy, make us angry.
and now you've got that in your phone. That's what people
Exactly.
need to understand.
Right.
We're all being manipulated. Unfortunately, that's the reality. You can use Faraday cages. You can limit your time on your phone, or you can get rid of it altogether. But really, in this day and age, I mean, we all know how impossible that is to do. But they're sending frequencies at us and manipulating us. And there's patents for this stuff that you can look up. And yeah, it is unfortunate. Like I talk about it. I've said it a few times. Like we don't. They don't need to make like the Neuralink that Elon Musk is talking about, creating Neuralink. There's already Neuralink. Your phone's already reading your mind, and people can think that sounds kooky and ask me for the evidence. Like where's my sources? I don't need sources. Like I think about stuff, my phone shows me it. Like it's called common sense. Like, and some people that asked me about it, when they asked me like, why do you think that? I said common sense. They thought that was being stupid. No, it's not common sense. It's like, well, to me it is. Like you use the same technology, you're on same cell phone, same technology as me. It's not happening to you too. Like you literally think about something, you even talk about it, and your phone's showing you stuff for it. Not only that, it's lining up with your life. Like okay, another, like people might know that there's this mission in Budapest that me and John Whitberg and other people went on when we were time soldiers at Montauk. We did all this wild stuff. I'm getting like advertisements for flights to Budapest, stuff like that. You know what I mean? And yes, some of it's like it's listening to us, obviously, but it's deeper than that. It's feeding us information. it's manipulating our nervous system while showing us certain images and stuff like that. And it works better on certain people. Certain people are more susceptible to it. Some people might not even work on them. But the reality is they do have this technology and they do use it. And whether it's for like really like hardcore stuff or just to sell us more crap, it's kind of irrelevant. Either way, it's mind control and it's wrong. And it's something that like needs to be it needs to be addressed and it needs to legally be dealt with. There's new laws that need to be made. There's new protections that need to be made for territories that are, we never really, people don't normally think about them. You know what I mean? They think their mind is safe. They think that their nervous system and their aura and their bodily frequency and all that stuff is safe. And once we understand that, no, there's actually organizations and people or what have you that will take advantage of knowing about this stuff, we can make laws and certain things and just make people aware enough to protect themselves as well. And that's what a lot of this is about, is really just like making us aware again. Like we've been sleepwalking and we're making us aware. And that's why when you talk about we don't need a top down kind of thing, that's a bottom up thing. That's why. It's because we need to break free from our stupor and wake up kind of on our own. And that can't, the top down thing can't do that. We'd freak out. We won't be able to handle it. It kind of has to happen organically like this. And maybe that's why they're lying to us. Maybe that's part of it. But I think at the end of the day, we're being taken, whether or not they do it for our own good or whatever. If that's the credo that they follow, it's been taken advantage of and abused to hell and back. And that's not why the secrecy continues anymore. It's being accountability time. That's what's basically what's going on. And some accountability needs to be had. There's no accountability right now. And in order for there to be accountability, there needs to be an organized movement from the ground up to make that happen.
Yeah. And, I think not only is it a bottom up movement, as that movement builds, then it kind of gives more of an impetus to the people who are in these groups and organizations who are not doing nice things to humanity. It gives them the impetus to come forward and to maybe blow the whistle. And it only takes a couple key whistleblowers to take down serious organizations.
And there are laws being put into place right now that are protecting these types of people, so that when they come forward, they're not going to just get thrown in the book thrown at them and then you never hear from them again. There's laws that are being put into place right now by, what could you call them other than white hats? You know what I mean? That are trying to make it so that this is possible, so that we can make this happen. And I know it just seems unreal, like the idea of us actually forcing disclosure, getting these lawsuits going and stuff like that. But I swear, people, I've seen it in other timelines. I've seen this stuff works. I've seen it happens. A lot of it has to do with the Native American tribes, because they file their own lawsuits, and everybody just kind of gets on the same boat and decides to work together to take these Luciferian organizations that screwed humanity over. We all work together to hold them accountable. We put our differences aside and work together to do that. It's a really beautiful thing. And the programming is that, when the food system falls apart and the grid goes down and everything like that, we're going to be so screwed. And yes, if that does happen, which it doesn't necessarily have to, but if it does, it's going to be an uncomfortable period. But what we understand is once we get them off our back, there's some sort of thing that happens where we don't need their system. We don't need their poisoned food. We don't need to live the way we're living now. It'll be a good thing when we get rid of them. And that's one of the things that we need to understand, is that change is uncomfortable. And that's why a lot of these people don't want to, a lot of the normies, as not to be insulting, but a lot of the more normal people, the reason why they don't want to accept this is because they don't want to accept that presidents and celebrities and all these people that we've all looked up to and thought are heroes are actually, very evil and have done some really bad things. But that's the reality. And I don't know, I'm sorry if I'm just going on a rant, but the main reason why we're making this video, everyone, is because we really want to highlight the fact that we can all put our differences aside in this disclosure movement, in this all this different people talking about this stuff. Now, we don't need to name names or say anything, and we're not taking sides anywhere, but a lot of people are not getting along right now. People are blocking people. People are doing, the disclosure movement is kind of in bad shape, falling apart. And what this is, in my opinion, and I think Brian would agree with me, is it's a lot of it's separation programming. A lot of us are MK Ultra assets, and I'm guilty of this, okay? I'm 100% guilty of this, for feeding into it at times. And I apologize. And again, I don't want to name names, but even I was feeding into this crap. And I don't want to feed into it anymore. I don't want to contribute to it. What's important to me is that regardless of what we disagree on, there's kids who are still being harmed. There's cages with children being farmed for their chrome. There's really terrible things happening right underneath our noses all the time, all around us right now. And I think that we need to remember that and put our petty differences aside for that, for the kids, for the people who are being hurt, for the lives that are being stolen, for just all the suffering that's going on, right, just right in this world that exists right underneath our feet, right underneath our noses, but it's like not there to us because we can't see it, but it's there. The only way that we can get these people safe, like a lot of these people who are in danger, is working together. We can't do it by forming clubs and stuff like that. And with that, we can't go into details about it yet, but Brian and I and James and some other people are organizing a conference. If all goes well, it will be in Florida in July, coinciding with the Day of Being thing. Before it, not trying to compete with it. We're trying to make it so, both things can coincide with each other, and that way when people fly out there, it's like really worth their while. They can check out two different things or whatever, or just check out one or whatever. But point is we're not looking at, oh, so and so doesn't get along with so and so or whatever when they're putting together the speakers for this conference. We are really trying to just contact the best people who we think are doing the best work, and we are hoping that we can cultivate an environment where I don't know, just some people can learn about each other and some mutual respect and trust can be built. And yeah, it's just really an honor to be working on this with James and Brian. And I'm kind of more behind the scenes than anything. I'm just going to be hopefully a speaker and stuff like that. I mean, they're the ones who are really doing the hard work, but yeah, we just wanted to make it clear that like that we're in this for like as a kind of like an activist kind of thing, like kind of like, or you call it organizer though, and maybe you could explain. I think it's important. You should explain some of your background when it comes to being like an organizer and how you want to apply that to this movement, to disclosure.
Sure. Well, I was a medical advocate and organizer with physicians primarily, in the California, like San Francisco Bay Area. And in organizing versus activism, we kind of distinguish it in some ways as, organizing likes to use tactics and strategy. And I'm not just poo-pooing activism, but I want to make a delineation here that organizing takes a bit more of tools and planning, and tactics and strategy, as opposed to, say, running a tactic over and over again of running into the streets with a bunch of banners, right? And so one example, there's an organizing example I like to use, is we're in San Francisco Bay Area advocating for certain nonprofit, quote unquote, hospitals that weren't paying taxes, to at least meet their charity care obligations, which they weren't doing. And meanwhile, while they were given tax breaks, so they're not paying taxes, they're also charging the most money for care in a lot of their hospitals. So they're providing the most expensive care while not doing any charity care. And then getting tax breaks for it on top. And so a typical activist approach when said hospital corporation, in this case, I'll use their name is Sutter Health, this matter of public record, when they wanted to shut down St. Luke's Hospital in the Mission District of San Francisco, very low income area, predominantly people of color. And they wanted to shut down that hospital after kind of poaching kind of the more lucrative physicians and patients up to their other hospitals up the hill and in other parts of town that were wealthier. And instead of getting together with a bunch of people and banners and saying, what do we want? Healthcare. When do we want it? Now. And everyone just chant, shame Sutter, shame Sutter, just chant really loud. What does that accomplish? And I always joke during some of our briefings before some of these organizing tactics that it's like, I can just imagine the healthcare executives up there on the 30th floor of their building, smiling and joking down, looking at the activists down in the parking lot, saying, "Oh boy, I hope that guy doesn't scratch my Lamborghini, or whatnot that's parked down there." And instead, what we did in that case was we said, well, if they're a nonprofit, we made the analysis of, well, let's put pressure on the local governments, city, county, state, and then ultimately federal, to revoke Sutter Health's nonprofit status should they fail to provide charity care and continue to do the most expensive care and X, Y, and Z. And what we found is that by putting pressure on the politicians, the mayors, the supervisors, the county commissioners and whatnot to do their job and to hold the feet to the fires of these so-called nonprofit corporations, that we were able to stop them from shutting down not only St. Luke's Hospital, but multiple other hospitals, and also prevent certain cuts in certain places. Now, we weren't always successful, and it's not the end all be all, but I like to use that as just an example of the power of organizing versus, tactic after tactic of trying to do demonstrations, for example.
So you need to attack them legally, basically, is what you're saying. Is that you need to find a legal end?
Well, I want to use another example, because in that case, it wasn't legal. It was political, in that people in the community were saying, well, why do we vote for you, Supervisor so-and-so, who represents us in the Mission District of San Francisco, when as supervisor, you do nothing when giant nonprofit hospital corporation shuts down our hospital? Well, all of a sudden, you get these politicians sitting up really quickly, and you're putting pressure on them in a way that they don't normally get pressure. Normally what happens is behind the scenes, they just take the money of these hospital corporations or insurance companies or whoever, and then they shine you on, Mr. Delegate, representing poor people in this neighborhood. They tell you nice things and they make you go away. Meanwhile, they're taking campaign contributions. But when you jeopardize their ability to just keep being supervisor so-and-so and to keep living off that gravy train, that's when you see action. And that wasn't just legalistic. I'll give you another example. Huey Long in the great state of Louisiana, he was known as the Kingfish. He was a governor who came up during like the Great Depression era days. And one of the things he always wanted for Louisiana was, I forget, it was Tulane or which of the colleges or universities. He is having trouble getting them admitted to the National Collegiate Football, I don't know what conference or what do you call it, okay? And I guess basically it was the people running the collegiate football conference. They didn't really care for Huey Long. They didn't care about his politics, and they didn't care that he had a new university in Louisiana that he wanted to get their football team into their college conference, right? And he wasn't getting anywhere. He wasn't able to sue them, nothing. And so what he did is he said, okay, where is the headquarters of this collegiate conference group? He said, they're in Atlanta, Georgia. All right, what else is in Atlanta, Georgia? The headquarters of Coca-Cola. So what he said to the people of the great state of Louisiana is, don't nobody drink any Coca-Cola until we get our football team into the college conference. And I believe it wasn't even a couple of weeks of that boycott that he got his way and they got their football team in. So what is that a demonstration of? That wasn't legalistic means. That was, on the one hand, they made an intelligent analysis. And then on the other, he took the situation to the people and he let them decide. And he put the power in their hands. In this situation, it was just by boycotting Coca-Cola. Okay. But both of these situations, whether it's we're going after your nonprofit status or we're going after your profits, your profit status, either way, you're going to feel the will of the people when it's the right thing to do.
And so I think that's a big part of kind of what I was saying earlier with how really it's just about making this public, because the people will want to do the right thing. They will want to hold these different organizations, these military organizations and otherwise that did all these terrible things. You need to hold them accountable.
Mm-hmm.
We need to hold them accountable, and people are going to agree on that. And I do have demands. I want to see my files. I want everyone to see their files. I want to know, what intellectual property that's out there that was taken from me, which I know there's a lot of it. And as far as songs and stuff like that. And yeah, we just need to actually go in physically and shut down these programs. You can't just stop giving them money. It doesn't work that way. You need to actually physically go in and shut them down. And so that's what we're trying to do. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, and there's conferences that need to be held and meditation retreats and healing and things like that. But let's not let us distract us from the fact that we need a legal we need to hold these people accountable legally in court, and reparations need to be made. And that's what we're here for. That's what this channel is about. This channel is about holding these organizations accountable, about us realizing our place in the universe and the galaxy, both backwards, what our history was, and then also forward, and in the present moment, realizing what technologies are out there and everything else. I mean, this is huge stuff, people. It's a lot. It's a big ask, but we appreciate all the people that are already here on this journey with us, and I ask you to really try to open up other people that their minds to this stuff. You'd be surprised how what's the word for it? Perceptive some people are of this. There's more than you realize. Yes, some people scoff at you and not what you're talking about, and you see the glazed look in their eyes and they're not listening anymore. But if you bring it up to people, there's quite a few people that understand, and we just need to keep on turning on our lights and letting them shine and get other people on board. And I'm a survivor of these programs, these MK Ultra programs, where they've used my consciousness over and over again. They've fractured my personality in all these different pieces, and there's all these different versions of me that they put in clones and make do stuff, and I'm all over time and space, and because of that my consciousness is watered down. It's less than what it's supposed to be because I'm in like a million places at once. And so this affects me directly, and this affects a lot of people directly, and it's important to me. And with that, I guess I don't know if there's anything else we really need to say. Brian, is there anything else you want to say before we kind of wrap this up? We're just kind of making a short video here.
Yeah, I mean, just one brief thing, and you kind of touched upon it. If someone doesn't want to listen and their eyes are glazing over, that's fine. And I think it's a numbers game out there, people. It's like 8 out of 10 people, for the most part, they're not going to get it maybe right now, or their eyes are glazing over. But maybe, we keep doing our work, instead of the 2 out of 10, we're going to be getting 3 out of 10. And I think that that's a real critical threshold for us. And that's absolutely doable. And that's why we're glad to have you, kind, gentle viewers, here with us. So, and please share, like, share, subscribe, and spread the word. Thank you.
Yeah, and good news to for thank you to those of you who have been watching and made it this far. I maybe should have said it at the beginning of the interview, but we have Tony Rodriguez, excuse me, is our next guest. His last name's a little weird. It's a little hard to pronounce. I'm sorry for that. It's Rodriguez, I think. It's not Rodriguez. It looks like that. But and then we also have Misha Johnson, who is a really wonderful woman who does a lot of work helping people, star seeds, MK Ultra survivors. She has support groups and stuff like that. And she has her book, They Weren't Butterflies, about monarch mind control programming. And she's a survivor of all that, and she's, a pretty big deal in my opinion. So her and Tony are really some high quality guests that we have up next. And then we also have Matthew Morian. I think, is that how you say his name? Matthew Morian?
Mornian.
Mornian? Okay, Matthew Mornian, my bad. We have him as well coming up. So those are some of the guests we have to look forward to, and all really spectacular guests. We're trying to do this once a week. Do it more regularly and get it out there more. And it's important, and just get more people's testimony out there and stuff. So but yeah, we really appreciate everyone's support here at Disclosure Now. We wouldn't be here without you. It's all about you all participating and making this a movement. That's what we're here for. And so this video is kind of just like a reminder to ourselves why we're here, and also to everyone else, kind of like a call to action. Like, this is we have to organize. We have to make this actually make an impact. And time is now. Strike while the iron's hot kind of deal. This is where the rubber meets the road. We have a lot of people talking. We have a good momentum behind us. We got conferences. We got movies being made, documentaries being made, stuff going on. And it's all a big deal. And I hope someday we're going to be able to look back at this and see how we accomplished and that we really did something here. And I think we need to really believe in ourselves and remember that we can accomplish a lot. We can get these files unsealed. We can get these programs shut down. We can make this stuff happen. So yeah, I guess with that, I'd like to end on a positive note, and just yeah, we've got a lot of great guests coming up, and thank you everyone for tuning in. I'm gonna stop the recording now.